What's going on, everybody? This is Nick from House of Paint 203, bringing you the third and final part of the Ettin series. In parts 1 and 2, we brought him all the way up to a mid-tone highlight. We've washed his fur and dry brushed his fur. We dry brushed his hair. And today we are going to be going over the finer details of this monster. Give him a final highlight on his flesh in certain areas. We're going to bring out the color in his braids and on his face, because as you can see in the monster manual here, he wears like war paint on his faces. I'm going to give a final dry brush to his clubs. To his morning star and his battle axe, as well as bring out some finer details in his trinkets that he's wearing around his belt and on his base as well. We're going to be basing, washing, and highlighting. So a lot to do still on this figure. Let's jump right in. As always, I want to give a special shout out to a friend of the show, Dominic Marriott, owner and founder of Credit UK, all the way across the pond in the UK. Dominic is a crafter of dice trays, dice towers, dice vaults, dice boxes, you name it, Dominic makes it. And you got to check out his stuff so you can up your game at your gaming table as soon as possible. Also, while you're here, be sure to smite like and slam subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all the content that I'm putting out there in my quest to paint the manual. And of course, today we are finishing up the Ettin, which will be my 11th monster that I have painted on this channel. So working our way in slowly but surely. I'm gonna base his base in Beastie Brown. I'm just gonna do this so that I have a coat down on his base so that when I'm ready to go into it a little bit later, it's kind of ready to rock and roll and play around with. So Beastie Brown, I'm going to be starting off using my big brush here for a little quick apply, and then when I get closer to his feet and his body, I'm gonna switch to my number 2. Orc skin. Not a big deal, but I'm just doing this at this point so that I have a base that's dry, and then I'll go back into it and give it a wash so that I can go back in later and just kind of play around with it. See what kind of effects I can do on it. Yeah, that's a solid base coat right there. We'll darken that up with a wash once it's dry. Go back into his foot here. And paint over that dirt area that I got on his foot. So, all right, we're good there. Gonna go in on his body now with a final highlight, and for this I'm gonna go with a mixture of bone white and orc skin. It's gonna be mostly orc skin. I don't want him to appear to be white, but I do want certain areas of his body to be a little bit more pronounced. All right, I'm just gonna get the top of his kneecap. gonna just pick out the raised areas of his muscles. Heel. Kind of the bulge of his belly right here. And again, just the raised areas, really. Like the curve of his arm, the bulges in his muscles up here. I'm kind of glance over this with the side of my brush. Get his elbow a little bit. I'm just gonna let the side of my brush kind of pick out the veins in his arm. Going to be this color, because they're going to be painting his face with that war paint that he's got, but I'm just going to paint his face for now as if he's not going to have war paint. I'll stop there for now with the flesh. I think the flesh is fine. And we'll see what we can do here on the club. For the clubs up here, I'm gonna go with Oitug Brown. As you're using Oitug Brown. hot yug brown. I'm using dry brush. I already have some palette from yesterday, so I'm just gonna go against the grain on his club. Try to bring out some of that detail. Do the same thing on his hand of his battle axe. Let's see if I can get his straps to be cool. His straps right there. I think I'm gonna go in on his braids now, on his face. But first I'm gonna give his base a wash. And I'm going to do that with some, kinda want him to look like he's living in like a swampy little area, so I'm gonna go with the Coelia green shade for this shade on this. Alright, we'll let that dry. Move on to his face. Alright, moving on to the face, I want to do skeleton bone on the teeth. Get those teeth going here. On the gums underneath the teeth, I would like to do a little rosy shadow from Master Series paint. See how that looks. Just like that, because these guys do have their gums exposed underneath their teeth, at least in the Monster Manual's first book. So while I've got those small brush out, I think I'm gonna base coat their eyes, and I'm gonna use hot yug brown for that. As a base coat on the eyeballs. Now I think it's time to move into the braids on his face and beards. But first I kind of want to go over the lip of this cloth right here, because I could see that I have some some brown on it. I'll take care of that. All right, as a base on the braids, I'm going to use heavy red, Level game color on the right face, and heavy blue as a base color for the braids on the left face. And I'm also going to use these as the paint for his faces here. So just pop a little bit in the palette. And try to be careful with the application of these because I do want to keep that black in the recesses. All right. And he does have some over here too, so. I'm trying to go over these maybe with the side of my brush. Try to catch those braids over there. And some up here as well. He also has some red down here. He's got like this little feather ornament that he wears on his ankle wraps. So hit that too. And I don't think he has one on the other side. No, he does not. Yeah, good. On the back. Nope. Alright, so we're good there. And now we'll go to the blue. glue down on his other little feather here. Alright, let's go to his eyes again. His eyes should be dry here. I want to give him a pupil. Just gonna go at the bottom of his eye. Let's go in with the face paint. In the monster manual, the red face just has like a red stripe going down the middle. That's what I'm gonna try to achieve here. And the blue face has like the upper half of his head is painted blue, so just to try and be as close to the source material as possible. That's what I did as well. And let me take care of his skull. Is gonna go with a little bone white, I think. Bones up on his club a little bit. Get his toenails. I want to just kind of polish him off a little bit on his flesh with only on the raised areas with a little outline of bone white, very, very diluted bone white. Graze over his scars. All right, he's coming along pretty nicely. We're almost there. While we have the bone white out, I think I want to just take some and just graze over his teeth a little bit. Or maybe just his fangs, like his larger fangs. Just help them pop a little bit more. He is close to done. I want to give his pouch on the side a little wash with some Nuln oil. And his little rings over there, also a little bit of a wash. Sure what it is, but the monster manual has it looking like a gray pouch, so that's what I'm going with. All right, we'll wait for those to dry, and then we'll finish them up. All right, now that it's dry, I'm just gonna go with a quick little dry brush using orc skin. Just gonna come in very lightly, just trying to pick out these edges. Gonna give it just a little bit of detail. Gonna give the rings a little bit of a shine here with some polished gold. So I'm just gonna touch them up a little there. Touch up this ring. The ring on his belt. Bring that out a little more. This guy down here. He also has a couple earrings up here that he's rocking. I'm just gonna use the side of my brush to grab those. Gonna give a little wash to his battle axe with Nuln oil. Once that dries, I kind of do want to go in on the straps of his battle axe up here. So I think what I'm going to do for that is I originally went in with leather brown on that, so I think I'm going to mix that with a little Oitug brown, or Otyug brown. I apologize for butchering some of these names. It's really not my intention. I do have a nice little edge highlight from that dry brush I'm going to try to make it a little more pronounced. Yeah, that looks good. I can dry brush his base. I'm going to be using some environmental effects on the base, but I can give it a dry brush. first. I'm actually dry brushing this with a little bit of the hot yolk brown leather mix that I just used on the battle axe. In the book, it does look like the Ettin has eyebrows, so I'm gonna try to give him eyebrows using black. I'm very nervous. There we go. Just using the side of my brush. Get there, maybe a couple highlights on his braids. There's a highlight on the red. I'm gonna use bloody red. I'm just gonna go over the tops of these braids here. A little bit on his forehead. And for the blue, I'm going to be using a mix of ghostly blue and heavy blue, which is what I used on the base. It's going to be mostly heavy blue, probably 75-25 heavy blue, because I don't want this highlight to be like too in your face. He's almost done. We just gotta wait for this battle axe here, but I think the battle axe is actually just about there, so we could always get it in. And get a little silver in here as a highlight on his battle axe. And I just stick to the edges and use this side of my brush. Here it actually looks like a kind of blunt. Maybe where the light would hit. All right, now we're just gonna work on his base a little bit. So as you can see, I've already applied some winter tufts down. And if you haven't seen me use winter tufts, these are tufts that these are environmental effects by the Army painter, and they're stickers. So you get them on like a strand of paper, and you can peel them off and just apply them here. So I've got a couple there. I'm also going to use a little bit of Summer Undergrowth, also by Army Painter, and I'm going to use some Battlefield Rocks as well. So I've used these before on the channel. I've used these on the dragons, the summer undergrowth I used on the young gold. To put these down, I'm using a Maxi Cure extra thick glue made specifically for ceramics, plastics, and hardwoods. And it is a very strong adhesive, and it does not take long at all for the glue to adhere to the model. So I'm going to be very deliberate about where I put this stuff. I'm going to lay down some rocks first. And all I'm doing here is applying a small drop. And that is going to be all that I need. That is going to squish that rock down. Right there. Get a rock up in between here. And I'm just using winter tufts, by the way, because I wanted to create a little bit of diversity on the base. I like how they're like kind of a pale green, almost yellow. Whereas the summer undergrowth is kind of dark green. So, all right, that's good. And now I'm going to take an old brush, and using the back of that brush, I'm going to be spreading out some summer undergrowth. So the summer undergrowth comes in these packs like this. It kind of looks like broccoli almost. And what you want to do is, take it out. I like to pull it apart a little bit so that you don't have like these huge strands laying all over the place if you don't want them. So I'm going to start off over here. I'm just going to lay a few down. Kind of get them the same that I want them, and then just going to spread them around. Trying to avoid touching the glue because, as I've mentioned on previous projects, this glue is very, very sticky, and it will be hard to get off of you. So just got to be careful. Just giving his base a little character before I move on down to his little stump. Now, normally for the larger models, I'll incorporate the stand into the base, but in this case, I don't really have much stand to work with here, so just gonna leave the stand as is. He should be ready for the table. As always, I thank you for joining me. This has been the Ettin Part 3. Information on how to follow me on all my social media platforms is immediately following the video, as is information on how to follow Dominic Marriott of Credit UK. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.